Hello and welcome to BusyWorksBeats.com. I'm bringing back the podcast. I need you to smash that like button. I just came off of a really calm walk, talked to my grandmother. I feel really good right now, really clear. And the other day I went back to my old videos and I realized I used to do a lot of podcasts. I think, in fact, my first video on the channel is called The Law of Attraction, how to use the law of attraction for music producers. So I want to bring this essence back. I wrote 2 books since the beginning of this online business. And I think they're really powerful. Actually, one is called The Producer Bible, where I literally go through a bunch of mindset stuff that you need to have in order to be ready for this journey. And I have another book called Busy Signal. I don't have a picture loaded up. I should have done that beforehand, but the other one's called Busy Signal. I wrote that back in 2020. And that book was just because of my response to seeing everybody kind of go through a lot of hard times. I wrote a book to get through that. So today we're going to focus on what to do when you don't know what to do. Okay, what to do when you don't know what to do. So for example, if you've ever felt that cloud over yourself, or that ambiguous, you don't know what to do next, or the feeling of just not feeling to understand the action that you have to take to move you forward, to feel rewarded enough to keep taking that action. We've all felt this at some point, especially if you're an entrepreneur, especially if you're doing this online content creation thing. Sometimes there's no blueprint mapped out for us, and we have to create these next steps. Now, a lot of that confusion actually comes from unprocessed thoughts and unprocessed materials. Okay, so I'm going to get into a lot of mental stuff that, I had to remind myself of recently. Is whenever we don't know where to go next, we have to look at the past. The reason we look at the past is we're trying to understand our accuracy or our efficiency for something, and then we take that history and we apply it to the future. I have the first page here, my Producer Bible, on January 1st. It says it's titled "Believe in Yourself." Now, if you want the full, book, it's, what is it? How many pages is this thing? Let me double check. It is 63 pages so far. I'm gonna add to it. But the first page here is about believe in yourself. That's the first segment in this entire book. Now, what I write in the book, it goes into more detail, but basically what it comes down to is you have to remember that you're already victorious. If you feel stuck, if you feel like you're not worth anything, if you feel like you're beat down, always remember you've already beat the odds. And what I mean by that is, I have it in my book here. Winning the lottery, the odds of winning the lottery are 1 in 292 million. Okay, the odds of winning the Powerball, I should say. Okay, whereas being born into a human body, the odds are 1 to 400 trillion. And if you don't know the difference between million and trillion, a million, you could stack up $100 bills to the back of a chair. And then a trillion is when you stack up $100 bills going to the space station. Okay, just so you understand the difference between a million and a trillion. You've already beat the odds of 400 trillion to 1 to become human and to watch this video and to have all the senses you need to even perceive this video. You've already been victorious in the past. And what I'm saying is you've already been victorious. Therefore, you are victorious. And what happens in life, we get thrown these curveballs and these things that create like a vibrato in our life. Imagine you're a frequency. You're on this high frequency and, something comes to disturb it. Now you're wobbling. Okay. Now what happens is you lose identity of your actual frequency. Okay. Wherever you are in that frequency chart. So, that could be, bad news from a job, relationship stuff. What else do people go through? Anything in life. Okay. And it throws you off of that frequency and you start wobbling. And what I mean is that if you don't understand that you're this core frequency and you start wobbling, you start to question your identity. And that's the worst, when you start questioning who you actually are. This video is encouragement to remind you who you actually are. You've already overcome 400 trillion to 1 odds to become born. You were the winner. Out of all those potential realities, you were the one to be translated into this reality. So you have to always remember you are already victorious. And here's something that I like to do. Whenever I don't have clarity, I like to start with a goal. But here's the mistake a lot of folks make. They just make goals and then that's it. What you actually have to do is make a goal that's quantifiable. Okay, so what I mean by this is I can say, hey, I want to get better at music production. That's very vague. What does better mean? You have to put it in a numbers term, because I forget who said this, but they said if you can't measure whatever you're talking about, you're not an expert. And what I mean by that is not to bash anyone, but a lot of us say that we understand all these concepts. If we truly understood the concept, we could put a number to it. You can measure airflow, you can measure air pressure, you can measure aerodynamics, you can measure hydrodynamics, whatever the terms are. Okay, because when you get to that level of physics to where you can understand the numbers behind it, you're truly a master. But me just observing water and saying it's going downhill does not make me a master. Okay, so what I mean is we say that we're masters at music production, but can we quantify it? Can we put a number to it? So what I want you to do is when you're writing your goals, I want you to start with a number. Okay, so let's say you want to get better at music production. Let's say you want to learn 10 chords. That's the goal. Now, the trick is to make a goal that you can believe yourself achieving. Okay, so it's I want to learn 10 chords. Now, the second line here's the biggest mistake people make. When they're writing their goals, they don't write their accuracy or their effectiveness. Okay, so you take your goal up top. Let's say learn 10 chords. You say, what is your effectiveness? In this case, what is your accuracy of learning those chords? You would have to measure your performance. Can you play the chords? Let's say it this way. Instead of learn 10 chords, I want to play 10 chords, in sequence. Okay, so let's say that's your goal. I want to play 10 chords in sequence. That's a goal. You start with line number 1, play 10 chords in sequence. Line number 2 is, what is your accuracy of playing those 10 chords in sequence 100% accurate? So let's say you're trying these 10 chords. It's a 10 chord progression and you're on chord 7 and you mess up. You go, okay, that's I'm going to count that as an L. You keep doing it. You try it number 2, you get all 10 in a row. Then you do it a third time, you get all 10 in a row. Now you keep doing this 10 times and you count how accurate you are. So let's say you messed up twice out of the 10 times. That means you're 80% accurate for learning this 10 chord progression. So now you add your accuracy to your goal. You say, I want to learn to do a 20 chord progression. And now you look at your past performance and you say, I was 80% on the 10 chord progression. Now I'm going to take that 80% and move it to my new goal of playing 20 chords in a row. So my goal is to play 20 chords in a row and I'm accurate 80%. I need to now divide 20 by 0.8. Okay. Now I do have my phone with me. So let's do this in real time from the calculator. 20 divided by 0.8 gives us 25 attempts. So that means I'm going to have to at least do 25 attempts of effort in order for me to get to my 20 chords in a row chord progression according to my past accuracy. So what I'm trying to teach you is that when you're making goals, you need to add a line called accuracy. What is your performance in the past? And you need to apply that to your current goal because it will show you how hard you have to work. For example, to make this super easy, I'll make this about foul shots. I'm going to turn off this music because it's clicking and popping in the background. Okay. So think about foul shots. Now, if your goal is to make 1,000 foul shots and you've measured over time from your past performance that you're a 30% foul shot shooter, what's the math? How do I if your goal is to make 1,000 foul shots and you're 30% accurate, that means you need to take 3,333 shots in order to make 1,000 foul shots. And that's what people don't do. So let me show you the math behind that. So let's say your goal is to make 1,000 foul shots. You take 1,000 in your calculator. Okay. Take 1,000. Can you see that? It's a little blurry. Okay. So take 1,000, you hit divide, and then you do 0.3 or whatever your accuracy is. Okay. So if it's 50%, it would be 0.5. So you divide it by 0.3 and that gives you a big number. Okay. 3,333. That's what you're doing when you're writing your goals is now you're measuring the effort that it's going to take to get to the goal. Goals are not this ambiguous thing where you don't know how you're going to get there. It's not a goal. That's a belief system. That's faith. That's not a goal. A goal is something that's measurable. And you can say, okay, it takes me this amount of effort to get to that goal, no matter what. And it's based on that accuracy line that people forget to add to their goal making. So what I'm saying is goals are not this like fluffy thing. Like I want to become a doctor. I want to travel to Mars. I want to learn Spanish. You have to quantify the goal and you have to measure your accuracy from the past so that you understand how much effort will be required. So now I know if I want to make 1,000 foul shots and I'm a 30% shooter, that means I need to make 3,333. Now I have to ask myself, do I have the time to shoot 3,333? Do I have the energy to do that? Have I eaten? Then you break it down into all these little micro decisions and ask yourselves, are you willing to do that? Okay, that's what you have to measure. So when you don't know what to do when you don't know what to do is you need to measure your past. And I gave you that story about, the odds of 400 trillion to 1, because that is your past victory. What the world teaches you is that you're not victorious, that you keep taking L's, that you're not effective. That's what the world teaches you because they want you to feel defeated in order to buy their solution. The world will beat you up on Instagram. It will beat you up on YouTube. It will beat you up anytime you see an advertisement or content from another person. The point they're trying to drive home with their ad is to make you feel insecure or make you feel inferior is the word I was looking for, not insecure, but inferior to them. Okay, so that you feel like you're not that person, and they want you to buy that magic pill that they offer to become that person. Okay, so that's the goal of the majority of marketers online, is to touch what are called pain points, because they want to lower your frequency. Okay, so that you make more emotional decisions. And when you get into that emotional state, they want to trigger that and monetize off of your emotional capacity into taking action, to buying their thing, to making you the person that you want to be. And the trick behind this all is this: you forgot who you are. Okay, that's the only thing, is you forgot who you actually are. So you have to go into your past and think of all the victories you've had, measure your accuracy, make goals. That's literally the first step. In order to move forward to a destination, you have to make goals. Okay, goals at the top, but not just make any goal. I want to be this type of thing, or I want to be that. You have to make it quantifiable, put a number to it. From that point, you measure your past performance and your past efficacy, your past, what's the word I'm looking for? Accuracy. Okay. So again, if your goal is to make 1,000 foul shots, but you're 30% at the foul line, you then have to take 3,333 foul shots in order to get to your goal. So if what I'm saying is your goals are not goals, you're writing a task list most of the time. It's not a goal. A task list is, hey, I want to learn Spanish. Hey, I want to, anything that's vague, okay, is not a goal. That's a desire. That's an intent. It's not a goal. A goal is something you can measure towards. That's why you have a field goal. And that's how you know how far away you are from the field goal. You're 20 yards out from the field goal. You're 50 yards from the goal line. It's measurable. Okay. So football made it super simple for you. You got to make all your goals measurable. Now, when it comes to what you want to feel and the law of attraction type stuff, you just have to focus on what you want to feel. I've seen people who are in environments that they can't control, bad environments, bad neighborhoods, different things. So what you need to focus on is the opposite of what everyone else is doing is what you need to do. So if you hate your environment, you need to literally do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. If everyone else is partying on a Friday, you need to not party. If I can't even think of stuff people do nowadays. I haven't been outside in a long time. But if everyone's doing this thing, you need to do that. You need to do the complete opposite. If people are saying yes to this, you need to say no to that. Okay, because if you don't want the results that everybody else is getting, you need to do the opposite. If they're saying yes to this, you need to say no to this. If they're saying no to this, you need to say yes to that. Okay, because you need to do the polar opposite. It's similar to music. If you want to cancel out negative frequencies, I'm saying negative, meaning like downward moving frequencies, you need to have a positive frequency. So for every negative one, you need to have a plus one. You need to have the complete polar opposite. And what I found is that, going back to the environment piece, is that some people find themselves in environments, families, surrounded by opinions and frequencies that they can't control. So the first step is just identifying that you don't want what they have and that you actually want to do the opposite. Now, the next thing you want to focus on is how you want to feel. So if you're not sure what you actually want, focus on what you want to feel. You want to feel good. You want to feel amazing. You want to feel extraordinary. This will, I don't know the quantum physics behind it, but it puts your brain in a state to where I think you're time traveling. I'm going to have to ask, Billy Carson? I'm going to see if we can get him on this channel. That'd be crazy. Shout out to Billy Carson. He's taught me so much. But there's something to where here's my thought. I believe that whatever you think, okay, so to manifest anything into this reality, it starts with thought at the top. Think of thought like a frequency. Okay. It's this frequency you cannot see. We can only see, red to blue. Roy G. Biv. Okay. We can only hear from 20 hertz up to 20 kilohertz. We can only feel material objects, whereas thought is something that's so high frequency, we just can't perceive it except through brain and different things that we're opening up now that we're moving into higher societies. So I believe that thought is just a really high frequency that we just can't perceive in this reality. So everything starts at thought, which is at the top. Now, your goal is to emotionalize the thought, bring it into this reality. The same way we have to translate a mix from our DAW into a car, we have to do the same thing. We have to translate our thought into this reality. The way we do that is we crystallize, okay, or we slow down the high frequency. We slow it down and put it into an emotional state, which is embedded in our endocrine system. The way we do this crystallization is focusing on what we actually want, okay, and then doing that constantly, because what we put on repeat goes in a loop in our system, in our subconscious mind, in our hormonal system. It's all frequency based. So the more you do something, the more frequent you do it, quite literally, you're going to think about this more and more and more. You're going to increase the frequency of thought. And that's going to be embedded into your emotional system because your body's going to get charged up. In order for my arms to move, I'm having chemical reactions to do this. Thank God. Okay. And to have those chemical reactions, I have to have there has to be something driving the chemical reaction. Okay. And that's what causes action. Okay. So I'm trying not to bore you to tears, but I just remembered something from organic chemistry is what is the thing that makes two molecules come together? Like if I'm just picking up random things from my desk. Here's two items. Okay. Okay. So if I have these two molecules, for example, let's say one's hydrogen and one's, oh wait, how did I get that to work? I just made it work a second ago. Tried it. Okay. Let's just say one's hydrogen and then one's oxygen. What tells oxygen to move to the hydrogen? Okay. It's electricity. It's about the electrons on the outside of the cell. But what causes the electrons to attract? Magnetism. Now, what is magnetism? Isn't that intent and desire? Isn't that the thing that pulls stuff closer together? What is magnetism? What is polarity? Think of your desire like magnetism. When you want something, you pull it closer to you. I heard something in my sleep, actually. I want to share this with you. Is that, I forget who said it, but it was on YouTube. I want to say Jay Griff had a conversation with someone else. So it was definitely their conversation. But he said this and it just blew my mind. It was so simple, but it was so powerful. He said, what most people think, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't think he said this part, but he basically, what most people think is when they're manifesting things that they don't exist in this reality, which is true in what you can perceive as reality. For example, if you played Halo or Call of Duty, you only know the enemies on your radar. You don't know the enemies across the map. You don't know where enemies are located over here, over there. They're there. You just don't know they're there. You cannot perceive them. And so what he said is something so powerful. He said, we have to remember that everything is already existing in the universe. It's just a matter of you commanding it towards you through your desire, through your intent. That blew my mind. Most of the time, we're taught that things are not in the universe, and then we have to desire them and magically make them appear in the universe. But if we believe that energy is neither destroyed nor created, that means everything already exists, which means it's just a matter of calling that thing towards me. Think of a seed in the ground, for example. When I plant a seed in the ground, I pour water on the seed. Consider your focus like water. Okay, your thought is the seed going into the ground, into your subconscious mind. Focus is the water. Now, what happens is, I studied this in biology. Thank God for my bio teachers out there. I went to Villanova University for my undergrad, for those who don't know, back in 2009, I think, to 2013. And I studied pre-med and all this type of stuff. So in, I think, the first bio class we took, we learned that when you put a seed into the ground, the seed needs nutrients out of the ground. Okay, it needs phosphorus, it needs nitrogen, it needs sulfur, it needs carbon, it needs, I want to say oxygen, but I'm not. I don't have the greatest of memory. Okay, but it needs a lot of nutrients, a lot of molecules. And so the way that a seed gets all those nutrients is that whenever it has water going to the ground, the water goes out into the dirt and it pulls all the nutrients back to the seed. So if you're following my analogy here, imagine that the universe is the dirt, okay? And imagine that your thought is the seed in the dirt. Now, whenever you pour focus on it, the water or the focus is going to go out into the universe or the dirt, and it's going to pull everything you need back to you, because now all the nutrients go inside the water and they travel back to the seed. Okay, so that the roots can be nourished, and then it grows up into the plant. When I thought of desires like that, instead of thinking of prayers as, please, I want this, and please, it's in a state of lack. It's saying that you don't have something. But what happens if we focus on what we actually do have? It's just not in our immediate vicinity. It's going, hey, it's like, you imagine, this is a freestyle, so I don't know if this analogy is going to sound the greatest, but it's like, hey, you go into an ice cream, and oh, perfect. It's like you go into a sneaker store and you see all the sneakers on the wall, and then you go, hey, I know you have size 11 in the back. They're like, yeah. You say, hey, do you have these in a size 11? They go, yeah, it's just in the back. The dude goes in the back, grabs the box of size 11s, pulls them back out to you. Now, you didn't know what was in the back in the warehouse or the inventory or the shelf space. But when you asked the salesman, the shoe salesman, did they have size 11? He says, yes, it's right in the back. You just couldn't perceive the back. And my point is, you have to ask, you have to desire something. You have to focus on what you actually want. And then that thing, wherever it is in the universe, all the trillions of combinations of things that have to happen will shift, because think of your intent as a motion or a force. It's moving through the universe like a laser. Now imagine, I saw a video of sharks in New York, I think, and they were swimming through this pool of this school, I think is the proper word, school of fish. So imagine this school of like thousands of fish, and then they had a shark. They had 3 sharks going through these fish. Now, as the sharks were moving through the fish were just scattering immediately. So think of your intent like a frequency going through the universe, moving stuff as it goes. Okay, so it's rearranging everything else around that intent to then be pulled or magnetized back to you. And that's what I want to teach you, is that whenever you don't believe in yourself, always remember what you've done in the past. And then you start with where you want to go. What is your desire? Now, when you focus on that desire and you focus on how you want to feel, you'll start forging these invisible things out into the universe that magnetizes everything back to you. Now, that's the magic of the universe, is that our brains are frequency receivers and frequency givers, like an oscillator in music, if you're familiar with sound design. And the more we amplify our intent, the more we amplify what we actually want, the bigger the signal goes out, the stronger it is. Lasers are really pure because it's just like, it's that single frequency that just goes out. It doesn't have a bunch of stuff in it. So what I'm saying is, when we focus on what we actually want and we don't cloud it with all this extra stuff, we start to materialize it because it's such a pure force going through the universe. I want you to have that feeling of magnetism. We're going to get into deeper concepts about the law of attraction and how it works. Okay. But it's worked in my life. There's so many results from it. And what I had to realize is that we're not in a state of lack. We actually have an abundance. And a lot of people misquote the definition of abundance. If you look up the etymology for abundance, it means enough for what you're asking for. For example, abundance means not that there's infinite broccoli in the universe, because that's the lie that you're told to trick you into all this other stuff that they try to sell you on how to be a celebrity, how to be a social media expert, how to do all this stuff that really, if you look at the statistics, everybody can't do everything. Okay. And that's just based on the numbers. Abundance means that you have enough for what you're asking for. So the example I would give you is not that there's infinite broccoli in the universe, but I can eat as much broccoli as I can for what I'm going to ask. Let's say I can only eat 1,000 heads of broccoli. Okay. If I ask for 1,000 heads of broccoli, the universe will give me 1,000 heads because it knows that I can only consume the 1,000 heads of broccoli. It doesn't mean that there's infinite broccoli for everybody around the world. It just means there's enough for what you're willing to ask for. Okay. And that's the true definition of abundance. So that that small shift in understanding what abundance really means. If you don't believe me, you can look up the etymology for abundance online. It does not mean infinite supply. It means enough for what someone asks. Okay. And you can live in abundance, but you have to change the way you ask and have requests. Like, for example, actually, I was going to say something about what people, they might email me, or not even email. They'll leave a comment like, can you please do this? Can you please do? Actually, I know I have a good one. So this is a joke for all the FL content creators out there. You're definitely going to get somebody in your comments that says, hey, BusyWorks Beats, can you give me FL Studio 21? I just need a license. That's all I need. And I'm like, I wish I could, excuse me, but I respect the developers of these companies, so I'm not going to give away their product for free. And that's a state of lack. They're asking me out of desperation and out of lack. They're not asking me out of knowingness and abundance. Now, if they said, hey, how can I get FL Studio, or I want FL Studio, that's a different request. It doesn't come off like they're begging me for something. Okay, so we have to go about our lives commanding reality, whereas most of us were taught to beg, because when you beg, you're automatically starting with that the thing does not exist for you. And when you start with that perception, you don't believe in what you're asking. And if you don't believe in what you're asking, it's not going to materialize. You're not going to slow down that high frequency thought and emotionalize it into your body enough to where you start to take action to go get that specific thing. And I'll leave it short, but I want you guys to go grab my new Producer Bible and the Busy Signal book. Again, I'll pull up the image in a different video here, but this is the new podcast. If you like these type of videos, I used to do giving game videos a long time ago. It was like a key part of BusyWorks Beats content. And you know what? I was inspired by my old videos to make this series again. We had a podcast and I had a series called Giving Games. If you want more of these videos, just let me know below. It's the only way I get to know outside of you liking the video. But just go to busyworksbeats.com/book. If you want these 2 free books, they're completely free. Does not cost anything. I want you to share this with your family, your friends. You can make content around it, invite me to your podcast, whatever. Okay, this is called Producer Bible, is one of the books, and the other book is called Busy Signal. You get those completely for free. You can download them right to your phone or just keep it in the browser, whatever you want. But go to busyworksbeats.com/book. I want to thank you guys. It was fun. Game for busyworksbeats.com.